live now. Go to Facebook. Graphic. Hello, everybody who's tuning in for this weekly session. Just put my teeth back in. I'm Aurora Dawn Campbell, your host, as usual, for this 30-minute session. Ask us anything at all. Please, please ask your questions, anything about accreditation. And as you know, I'm always joined in the hot seat by a very interesting guest. And today is no different. We have the lovely Donna Garrity. Thank you, Donna, for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Dawn.
You're very welcome. So just to set the scene, this session has been sometimes called a guilty pleasure, Donna. We don't get masses of questions, but people tune in with a cup of coffee and just think, I didn't know I could be coached on that subject, or I didn't know you could be such and such a type of coach. So that happened after we had the history coach on. I didn't know you could be a history coach. Well, I guess you can be anything. There's thousands of niches, aren't there? Absolutely. So this is for you if you're training to become a coach and or mentor and want to know about how do you add those tools to your skill set. Donna and I are ideally placed to answer those questions. Or maybe you actually want to work with a coach or a mentor. As David, head of accreditation, mentioned to me today, we're 100 and something days away from Christmas. So if you're still thinking, goodness, I haven't achieved last year's New Year's resolutions, it's never too late. The likes of Donna and I, again, ideally placed to help you with your personal and professional goals. So whatever they are, you can still achieve them before the end of the year. Maybe you're already an existing coach and like Donna, came to accreditation late. We're recently celebrating your success as an accredited master coach, aren't we, Donna? Or are you still pending? I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've got some more documents to come in, but pretty much there.
Great. Okay. So, I mean, Donna, like myself, been coaching for a long, long time, and we'll come back to why now is the right time for Donna to become accredited, because there'll be coaches and mentors out there who's thinking, well, it's an unregulated market. I don't need to become accredited. Why would I voluntarily put myself through that? And I think Donna's probably best to answer those questions as she's recently gone through that. And then finally, I guess we're also talking to training providers, Donna, and universities who are training the next generation of coaches. You know, it's the end of term. People are looking at the league tables and thinking about starting their coaching training in September with the new term, September, October time, depending on whether it's a university or not. So you might be thinking, well, why should our university or training academy add that seal of approval, that quality assurance to all the other accreditations and certifications that we've got? Why? Because it does create a massive differentiator in the eyes of the student when they're choosing which organization to train with. So that's kind of our audience, Donna. So we will sit back now and Gillian will be fielding any questions that come our way through all the various social media platforms. Hopefully there'll be people joining in, having a cup of coffee, or in my case, a smoothie. And I like to start these questions, these sessions rather, just by asking a great transpersonal question. But before I go into that, I just want to say Donna is an experienced trainer, entrepreneur, and a Callahan trained therapist. She actually trained me in thought field therapy. Oh, it must be over a decade ago now. And accredited master coach based in the UK. So lots of accolades, lots of business experience. So again, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat box to us. So Donna, what fills your heart with joy outside of work, I wonder?
Oh, hold that thought. I'll demonstrate. 1 second. Oh. Rather than answer the question, let me demonstrate.
Go on
for
then.
Your viewers.
This is a first. Oh, puppies. Puppies. Well, do you know what? I nearly thought you're going to say animals because of your pet care business. But yes, tell us more about that gorgeous puppy.
Well, firstly, there's 4 of them. Although we do have a pet care business, outside of that, we also volunteer for a wonderful service dog charity or assistance dog charity called Canine Partners. So they're like guide dogs for the blind, but they actually work with people living with a disability. So what we do is we're what's called brood bitch holders. So we look after the mums of the dogs, and the puppies, when they're born, they go on to be trained as assistance dogs. So we've just had a litter 4 weeks ago. They'll stay with us to 8 weeks. And then at 8 weeks, they'll go to a foster parent for 14 months for their initial training. And then they'll go to the training centre in Leicester, probably for another year. And then what happens is they then get partnered with somebody with a disability, which is just incredible. They just give so much independence to people. So we just get the mucky puppy stage, but a lot of our spare time is taken up with that. Yeah.
So there's a lot of piddles to clean up, but also a huge amount of cuddles and licks. I can only imagine. Funnily enough, last month in our French Connection newspaper, I was reading about a woman who was the stage 2 that you've just described. She took the puppy for, I think it was 14 or 18 months, and it was for training for guide dogs for the blind.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how can you give it up after, it's 14 to 18 months old. I can't remember which it was, because you've grown so attached. I mean, in 8 weeks, it's not long enough for you to absolutely think, I can't bear, and particularly as, the next litter will be coming anyway. But to have a dog in your house for 14 to 18 months and then give it away, that is a real labor of love, I think.
Yeah. That's
really
why we
generous
don't do
spirit.
that. We don't do that. I mean, with our pet care business, we have dogs come and go because we home board. So, dogs come and go for a week or a few days, and that's fine. You have a regular relationship. But with the puppies, you do get attached, but equally, you're glad to have your house back for a while. But yeah, absolutely. All credit to the puppy parents, because they do have a really hard job, especially with how intense that first level of training is, because they make or break the puppies really in terms of whether they go on to the next stage of advanced training. So but the charity are incredibly supportive, and they are desperate for volunteers. So if anybody's interested, please look up Canine Partners. They're phenomenal.
Canine Partners, great. Well, I mean, what a legacy to think you've been part of that and touched somebody's life through helping to train a dog. Wonderful. We have a dog charity in Spain, in Malaga, where we live some of the time, and it's called ACE, and we fostered a dog there once. So they buy the dogs from the kill centers. I mean, literally, they're going to be euthanized, and they buy them. And we fostered this beautiful, I can only describe her. If her name had been Basil Brush, I wouldn't have been surprised. She just looked like Basil Brush.
Excellent.
And we couldn't bear to give her up after 2 months. We really, really did everything we could to buy her off the center, but she'd already been adopted by a family in Holland that flew in to get her. And I didn't know that it was such a international business. And then my friend said, well, they had rescued a dog from Romania. And then here in France, somebody's rescued a dog from another country. And I thought, well, you'd think your own country had enough dogs, but it's the old adoption rule scenario, what you have to go through, that makes it difficult, which is why they look outside their own country sometimes. So
I think so, and I think the hardships in a lot of the other countries are so severe. We've got a fabulous rescue near us called the Max and George Trust, and they adopt a lot of dogs from Europe. And the conditions that they've been in is horrendous. To see them then move on is just phenomenal. So all credit to them as well, because I couldn't do that. I have the nice, light, fluffy side with our pet care business and with the puppies that we have, but people that rescue, or hard, so hard.
And I guess it's war-torn countries as well, like Ukraine at the moment. There's appeals, to rescue the dog. But of course, eventually people will go home and they want their dog as well. So that's a real difficulty. But Robert said we're never doing it again. He was heartbroken when we had to give little Maya up. Just well, it was a matter of weeks of, feeding her up and building up her confidence and just falling in love with her. And he said, I can't do it again. I can, but he just said no. And at the time, we had another dog who didn't look at Maya at all. She would just look the other way. And we thought, well, she's old. It's not really fair.
Yeah.
But now she's gone, I would be open to fostering, but my husband just won't.
Oh, it is tough, but I think, you know, for the people that do it, I think you have to put your own feelings aside and just think that you're giving another dog a chance. You know,
Yes.
you're giving that one, you'll make a difference to that one life.
Yeah, definitely. So as well as being a coach, a trainer, and a therapist, you're raising all these wonderful puppies. So what do you do to nurture yourself then, Donna? What do you do in any free time you have?
Well, I've got some wonderful friends who work in various areas of therapy, and I've got a lovely lady who I like to go to for acupuncture. She finds it very strange that I actually enjoy it. You know, and we were talking earlier on about Indian head massage. That's the kind of thing. My personal stuff is very much about get myself into, you know, a spa day, something like that,
Yes.
or even just a session with somebody. I love that. But otherwise, you know, just being outdoors, spending time with my husband, because although we live and work together, you know, the conversations are very much around what have you got on today, you know, what time are you back, you know, so actually to take ourselves out of that and spend time together and, you know, out with friends and things, that's really what we do. Nothing dramatic, just, you know, we've booked a couple of days at a nice lodge in Shropshire soon, so that kind of thing, really, just getting out and about and away from everything else.
Yeah. Shropshire, is that Shakespeare country?
No, that's oh crikey,
Oh,
that's
is it Shrewsbury? Shrewsbury?
Shrewsbury, that's the word. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was, I was just thinking, had I been to Shropshire, and I thought Shakespeare country, it was Shropshire,
Yeah.
Shrewsbury I went to. Okay.
Shrewsbury, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Around that age.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Donna. You do need regular couple of days break because like you, my husband and I, we're both at home and sometimes it feels like we're ships that pass in the night. So tomorrow we're going to be in the Dordogne for a couple of days. We're going to be
Amazing.
canoeing, cycling, and actually having some eye contact. We're going to be looking at each other because otherwise we're like, oh, you've worked in the garden all day. I've been in the office. Then we come in to eat. And particularly this last couple of weeks, we've been watching the football and the Tour de France, very late nights. We're so tired. So
yeah,
I keep saying tomorrow we're going to be looking at each other and walking hand in hand along the Dordogne, cycling, canoeing, and just de-stressing. And you need those moments. We're showing up all the time as therapists, coaches, practitioners for other people, and it can be very draining sometimes, can't it? Especially if you're
I had exactly. I had an alarm call, really. It was quite a while ago now. My nephew, who's probably in his 40s now, went fishing with Jeff, my husband. And Jeff came home and he said, I need to have a word with you. And I was, why? And he said, Jamie had a really nice love message on the text from his wife. And I said, oh, yeah, actually. I said, that's nice. He said, do you remember the one you sent me earlier? I said, no. He went, have a look. And when I looked, I'd sent him a message saying that the toilet roll holder had gone rusty. So note to self, try to be a little more romantic when your husband's away.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's funny. But that's the other thing. You make each other laugh, and that is just
all the
as
time.
important.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of your accreditation, I mentioned to everybody that it's recent for you. How has accreditation not been on your radar sooner, and why is it important to you now, Donna? I know you explained it to me, but I can't remember, to be honest.
No, that's fine. Well, to be fair, accreditation this time round, so if I go back a stage, I had a coaching and therapy business back in 2002 to 2008 and trained with Gerard and did, you know, various other programs elsewhere, and I did have accreditation then, but I can't remember who it was with. Clearly insignificant, whoever it was. And, you know, I remember doing it then because it was really important to me to get the right qualifications, get the right accreditation and have that reassurance and that standard, if you like. When it came around this time, what was really interesting was it would have been, oh, so I've missed a bit. Actually, I've had the other business for 8 years with my husband. So I was off the radar of coaching and therapy in the marketplace. I did it within my business. So I didn't have accreditation then. I was doing it very much internally. But when I came to talk to my husband about his retirement, it was really important to me to go back to my first love, which is what we're doing now. And it would have been really easy, I think, for me to just dust off my qualifications and just get back out there again. And,
Yeah.
nobody was going to check because we're not accredited, not regulated, are we? So,
Yeah.
but I thought, you know what, if I'm going to do this again, I'm going to do it properly. And when I looked into coaching and therapies, both had moved on significantly from the time that I'd been away. And it just really excited me. And I just thought, right, I'm going to do all my retraining, get some refreshers under my belt. And one of the key criteria was about the accreditation. And I looked at several and obviously came to you and realized that this had got so much more. Because it's a lonely place being a coach sometimes. You need to be amongst your peers. And I found that there was so much support, both online and in person. These little chats, these group sessions, really, really important. But what I thought was the game changer for me with what you do was around the fact that you actually offer business support. Now, whilst I could argue that I don't necessarily need it, I've got that experience. I would certainly go there. But that's one of the things that I think lets a lot of people down when they're starting in business is they don't have that business training. They don't have that business support. They're great at what they do. So there were lots of things within what you did. But that was the one that I thought, actually, that really gives people a much better grounding. So all the coaching stuff, fantastic, is there. Actually giving them the opportunity to learn how to create that business to make it sustainable was again, a key thing. But the resources, everything's just all changed so much for a short space of time, but how advanced it all is now through you.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for that feedback. I really appreciate that. And you're right. I mean, you and I trained originally with Noble Manhattan a long time ago. The industry has evolved and really matured in the last 2 decades. It's now worth nearly 3 billion. And there are thousands of coaches out there with thousands of niches. So accreditation is increasingly important. I was speaking to Bettina the other day, and she said that she bids for work quite regularly. And she said it's not enough to be a member, because she said on the contract it had, are you a member of an accreditation body or are you actually accredited? And I'd never really thought about that differentiator before, that accreditation bodies have memberships, but which makes them sound huge in terms of their numbers. But it doesn't mean that everybody is accredited. And they said, no, they actually want it. If you didn't tick, which was mandatory, if you didn't tick that you were personally accredited, don't continue filling out the application form.
Absolutely.
So people, corporates and the public sector, we have known this in the education sector, increasingly it's becoming, well, we're a self-regulatory body. And, because we're educating the public to do their due diligence and say, are you accredited? And corporates are saying to the coaches, are you accredited? By definition, coaches are coming to us for accreditation. And it is working. So, very interesting. So you're relaunching your business whilst being a puppy mummy as well. So what is your niche market, Donna? Because I know you're a Callahan trained therapist. You've got a massive amount of business and entrepreneurial experience. Where are you going with your business? What could people expect when they hire you?
Okay. So really I wanted to integrate coaching with therapy. Because I felt there was definitely a place for both, because a lot of people, when they are going into coaching, certainly entrepreneurs or young people, young businesses, the thing that holds them back is in here. So, with the practical coaching and everything, we can certainly help and we can deal with a lot of that. But sometimes just breaking through some of those barriers, that fear, that anxiety. And I know that was for me, certainly as well. Having given up my first business in the last recession through, everything that was going on at that time, there was definitely a mental block for me about going back into this type of business again, as much as it was a passion for me. So what I wanted to focus on really were people who have the emotional blocks to whatever it is they're trying to achieve in life or business. A lot of young business people, it's overwhelm. They don't know where to start. It's fear. It's all of those kind of things. Sometimes it's disappointment if they've tried and, in their words, failed with a business previously. But equally, on people's personal lives, they may be going through a divorce, a separation. It may be that they are struggling with being a carer role, all of those things. So what I want to do is to be able to overcome those things first, help them get into a place of resilience, and that will just propel them forward with their coaching as well, because the emotional stuff's not holding them back.
And resilience is the key. I mean, I talk about it a lot in our meditation. I do a guided meditation every Wednesday, and I hear it a lot in emotional intelligence and meditations within schools. It's all about resilience building, so that, you know, when life throws you a curveball, you're not knocked for six. You've got some strategies that are going to help you. And one of yours is the tapping. So perhaps you just explain to people who thought, I don't know what tapping is, or I've heard this tapping, but what is it? How does it work? I don't believe in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good thing is we don't have to believe in it to make it work, do we, Dawn? That's the wonderful thing. It sounds very woo-woo, but it is actually incredible, because it's a technique that was developed back in the 80s by Dr. Roger Callahan, who sadly passed. His wife Joanne has carried that on, but effectively it was brought about by a lady who had got an incredible fear of water, and Dr. Callahan, who was at the time was a psychologist, was treating her for the fear of water, and he'd had her in therapy for many months, and he was a very successful therapist, a psychologist, and he knew there had to be a better way to help this woman overcome her fears. And he started looking into a lot around the meridian system, so acupuncture, kinesiology, all of those things. And he just happened by chance asking her to just tap, because he hadn't got any needles, to just tap on certain points on the meridian system which runs through your body, and the fear went absolutely overnight. He was never able to replicate it for many years, but he knew he was onto something, and he then developed what was then known as TFT, or thought field therapy. That's continued. It's actually better known in the UK as EFT, or emotional freedom technique, which is kind of a spin-off, but TFT, or the tapping technique, is the original source. There's pretty much three levels. You've got the algorithm level, which is open to anybody. You don't have to be a practitioner to do that. You've got a diagnostic level, which people tend to go to practitioners for. It's just a quicker and easier way of being able to diagnose a specific sequence of tapping, as opposed to a standard set of tapping. And then there's the third level, which is the VT, or the voice technology, which you would need a therapist for. But again, it works in stages that the algorithm is about 80% successful in nearly all cases, which is fantastic. But when you start to get into the diagnostic or the VT level of that, it's very much fine-tuned to the individual, and you're getting sort of 95 to 97% success rate, which is phenomenal. And it works with everything from fears, phobias, anxiety, trauma, a level of pain, like if you've got obviously not appropriate pain, but certainly, you know, headaches, pain, that kind of thing. I used it once when I actually slipped and tore the ligaments in my leg when I was stepping out of a fuel station, slipped on some oil, and ended up in a heap on the floor. And much to my embarrassment, had to have two people lift me off the floor and pop me in an ambulance. But I didn't have any painkillers at all. I just tapped. And I was able to bring the pain level down from around about a 9 to a 4 at that time.
Wow.
Whilst in hospital. So it's phenomenal. It's just an amazing technique.
Yeah. Well, I know you were very successful when I came to you with a trauma-based situation with the tapping. I seem to remember I cried the whole way through it. I had no idea what was going on. Something that had troubled me for a long time, and it's, you know, pretty much gone. There are obviously triggers, and then you go back to tapping. But am I right in thinking EFT, the one that I think Gary was the breakaway and created EFT in the UK, doesn't use algorithms? It's just a formula, and it's the same one for everything. But thought field therapy,
so.
you've got algorithms for different things. And that was a little bit more complex for me, being a dyslexic, or remembering all the different things, whereas I just use the EFT, which is just the easy one, and everyone can teach themselves that, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with EFT, I think, you know, it has evolved in a very different direction. Still incredibly powerful, because it is what it was, which is the original source of TFT. So I believe they use a lot of statements and that kind of thing. I've not really looked into it. You know, I'm very much a purist with the TFT. But yeah,
sure.
the TFT is very simple now. The more refined it is for you, you might only have 3 different points that you would need to tap on. There's a section that you would need to do in the middle, but ultimately it can be very, very short. The algorithms are, you know, what they are. They're preset. But again, not massively long. You don't tend to get involved with, as I say, the statements or any kind of mantra. So very simple and just incredibly effective. And I've worked in my past, you saying about the trauma, you know, I've had some incredibly severe cases where when that person's presented themselves to me, I've sort of thought, oh my gosh, I'm out of my depth here, but I have to trust the process. It's not about me. It's nothing to do with me. It's this technique just works. And as I say, on the back of the coaching and how powerful that is, this just helps you to break through a lot of things very quickly. To
I
get
think it's
people moving forward.
a beautiful dovetail to coaching, because people can come to coaching, they're forward thinking, but they're still stuck, or they still believe the obstacles are going to sabotage them. And when you dovetail that with tapping, I think you're on a winning combination there, Donna. And I don't know how many people do it. Do you know, out of all the hundreds of masterclasses we've run in the last 6 years, I don't think there's been a single one that's had tapping involved. So if Lisa hasn't already, I'm sure I've introduced you to Lisa, haven't I, the head of CPD. If we've not already booked you for a tapping masterclass, we've got to do that. Is there anything in the pipeline between you and Lisa yet?
I've had an email from her. I will respond on that basis for sure. But if anybody wants to learn this, you know, we run both online and in-person training courses for the algorithm level. And then if people want to carry on to be diagnostic or VT, then they can go down that route with Callahan. But certainly, you know, we've got group sessions, 1 or 2 day sessions for people to learn, and they're on our website. So if people are interested in learning it, I'd just highly recommend it. As you've said, it's a fantastic dovetail, and it just moves things forward so quickly. It's great for yourself.
It is.
I think it's just very easy to apply when you need it.
I think we need to get more coaches. I think we should be on a mission, Donna, get more coaches to use this as well. It would make it even more powerful. We know coaching is results orientated, but this would make it even more powerful. Oh, we've got a question. If you're a therapist, how helpful would it to be to have accreditation? Well, I think in therapy, it's more or less mandatory, isn't it?
It's certainly important. Certainly very important. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe there's somebody listening who's a therapist or thinking about becoming a therapist and wondering, do they need to become accredited? But I think you'll find as a therapist, it's probably, certainly if you're a counselor, it's mandatory in some professions. It's not mandatory in the coaching field, but as you've heard from Donna, it can be very, very helpful, because not only do you get your accreditation certificate, which is a fantastic seal of approval, it's a great thing to have in your professional evidence portfolio, great boost to your confidence. It shows you care about your profession and your client. But it is a massive differentiator, you know, when the public are trying to think, well, which client, which coach am I going to choose? They're going to go with the one that is not only trained, but also qualified and independently accredited. So the answer to that really is yes, accreditation is helpful, whatever industry you're in, I think.
Absolutely. I'm separately accredited and insured through the Federation of Holistic Therapists anyway, but absolutely. It's like you say, I mean, the pet care sector isn't accredited, and that worries me greatly. When you get Doris the dog walker, you know, popping up, and I'm not saying there aren't some fantastic people, there are, but ultimately, you know, you're responsible for people's homes and pets, and it's the same with coaching. You know, really, you've got people's, you know, trust is absolutely in your hands, and if you're going to give that person your complete trust, then why not give it to somebody that knows what they're doing? You know, I'm a believer, you wouldn't put yourself in front of a surgeon that hadn't been qualified. You wouldn't necessarily get a plumber in to sort your heating out that hadn't got the right qualifications. So why would you, you know, trust somebody with potentially steering a path to your future without any sort of qualifications or accreditations?
Yeah. And yet people do consistently. I mean, it kind of beggars the belief that people don't do the same amount of due diligence for their mental health and well-being as they do when they book a plumber or any other
Exactly.
support.
Mm.
But I don't know whether people make assumptions, Donna, or they just think, oh, well, I like this person, so let's just take a weight loss coach. I mean, people post-COVID are adding the word coaching to their titles as another income stream. Now, some of them are great coaches because
Yeah.
it's inherent in them. They've got the listening, the questioning to, but unless you've been independently authenticated, verified, and assessed, you don't have that proof of credibility to say to the client, you can trust me. And
Yeah.
it's a bit like insurance. You don't know you need it until you need it. So I was looking, the day Donald Trump got shot, there was an interview on CNN News about a life coach who'd gone to prison. In fact, when I Googled it, quite a few do. It wasn't a one-off situation. Now, we haven't got that in the UK.
No.
I hope, we're a lot more diligent and a lot more clued up with regard to being qualified, being trained, being accredited, etc., and having insurance. But it is another layer of protection for you and your client, actually.
Most definitely. And so, like you say, for us, because again, you potentially could make a mistake and boom, it's all over. But more importantly, again, that person has paid you and put their trust in you, so you owe it to them to do it correctly. And you saying about the accreditations and the regulations, I mean, again, I can refer back to the pet care industry. It frightens me to death, and a lot of it is education, because Joe Public doesn't know that this is really important. And yet they will clearly open their doors to their homes and let anybody look after probably the next precious thing after their children, without ever checking that that person is capable. There's no safety checks. Whereas, for example, home boarding, we home board dogs, as I've mentioned before, we have to complete 26 pages of compliance, which is not dissimilar to if we were setting up a children's nursery, just to allow the dogs to come and stay with us. And yet there's others out there who just don't even do that, and people just think, I'll just leave my dog, it's fine. And then the next thing you hear is that that dog's escaped or got injured or bitten or something. So it's the same, I think, with any unregulated profession. If you can't get regulation, then at least get accreditation, at least know that that person has gone through some sort of standard checking. And just, put your trust there. That's much more important.
Definitely. Well said. I think the time has passed where the person that we hire for anything because we like them, because they're nice, is just not enough anymore. You have to do your due diligence. You have to dig deep. You have to treat it like a business relationship. You can't just think, I like them, so I'm going to take them on. So it's been, I'm conscious of the time. It's flown by. Thank you so much for sharing your passion and your energy, both for your dog business, the tapping and the coaching, Donna. So I can't wait to have you back. And if you follow up with Lisa and say, Dawn wants to host my masterclass, we want to bring tapping to the coaching community and show them how easy it is to add that to their skill set for the benefit of the clients and themselves, then let's make that happen. And then we can see a lot of you. All right.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Donna, for being so positive and engaging. And thank you for whoever asked that therapy question. Yes, accreditation is important regardless of what you do. I will be here same time next week with another interesting guest for you to tune into. So in the meantime, stay safe and